Well, hi everybody. I can hardly believe that we are already into week 6. This class has flown by. Now, in the chapters this week, we begin to pull it all together, all of the stuff that we've learned over the past few weeks, and we begin to apply much of what we're learning. And this really can be a fun exercise because I'll take you through some of the highlights of chapters 13 through 15, which you'll be reading this week. Now, let me give you a way to read this that's going to help you. Take the 3 chapters and put a bookmark in each one of them. Mark the areas that you need to read. Then skim that area. Just go through it and become familiar with the landmarks. How long are the chapters? What is the reading? What are some of the words? That sort of thing. Then go back after you've gotten the landmarks and just read it. Then go back a third time and this time read critically. Pay attention to words that you don't understand, make notes in the margins, highlight, that sort of thing. By the third reading, you'll have a better understanding of the material. And by the time you get to that critical reading, you're going to be able to absorb the information. Take some time to do this. Find yourself a quiet place, go to the library. It may not be prudent to be at home where you'll have a lot of distractions. If you have a specific place where you study and it's a quiet place where you can attend to what you're doing, then fine, use that. But if not, then get yourself to a quiet place where you can study and dig into these chapters. Because as you begin to apply what you're learning to these chapters, you're going to find your thinking changes. And you're going to begin to, if not already, you're going to begin to evaluate some things that maybe you haven't thought of before. In chapter 13, you're going to start writing your argumentative essay. And remember, you can argue without being argumentative. And think about the elements of a good argument and begin to flesh that out. So pay good attention to the process of writing argumentative essays. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the book here. Make sure I haven't missed anything. I like the quote from John Locke here on page 377 of your book. Reason must be our last judge and guide in everything. Let that rational part of your mind be the judge of what you're doing. Then on 378, you'll deal with writing a successful argument, some practice about before you write. And here on 379 of your book, I believe there's a very crucial point here, and that is know yourself. What are your own biases? What do you already know or think you know? Do you know what you think you know? Sometimes we elevate opinion to the level of fact, and that can be dangerous. So we have to be able to set aside our own prejudice, which means preconceived idea. The word prejudice has been hijacked to mean just an opinion toward race, in typically a negative sense, a negative connotation. I'll make you look that word up if you don't know it, rather than the denotation. And I'll give you a hint. Denotation is a dictionary definition. Connotation, I'll just tell you. Connotation is the implied or the feeling associated with a word. So know yourself. What's important to you? What this is important to me, but this over here I really don't care much about. Know your own opinions and biases, and be able to either support them or, if necessary, reject them. Have the intellectual honesty to identify what you believe and why, and when you know yourself, it helps you to be objective. Um, so then know your audience. So, who are you talking to? For example, if I'm preaching at a church, I'm going to use a different vocabulary than if I'm speaking to somebody in the marketplace. If I'm speaking to a civic group, for example, I'm going to use a different type of language. I'm not going to use as much of the Christianese as I might use in the church. Um, and that's part of knowing my audience. What is the general intelligence level of your audience? What is their vocabulary? If you're speaking to a group of white collar, or excuse me, blue collar workers that in any given field, they're going to have a different type of knowledge than somebody who is in, let's say, white collar academia. If you're speaking to a group of college professors, you're going to communicate differently than if you speak to the automakers union, for example. They're going to have a different vocabulary. Not right, not wrong, just different. And keep in mind, there's different types of intelligence. I use this example a lot. There's a reason that I'm a pastor, teacher, theologian, and not an auto mechanic. Put me underneath the hood of an automobile, and that just isn't my element. Put me in front of a group of people and ask me to teach about biblical subjects. I am all over that like a coat of paint. So know yourself, know your audience, and then we'll continue through. I'll skip the rest of chapter 13. Let me fast forward here to 14. Thinking critical about the media. You'll find that you have some fun with this particular chapter because it talks about mass media, social media, various types. Let me see if I can find some others. Got to put my glasses down so I can read. The news media, and on it goes. Talks about how the media entertains us, different constructs there. You'll deal with perceived bias and opinion, being able to separate fact from opinion. And as you watch the different news outlets, CNN versus Fox is a comparison that is often used. And you can, if you're watching for it, you can see the bias on one end of the spectrum or the other. Fox News, as you know, tends to be more conservative, CNN more liberal. And it even, I catch myself doing this with newspapers. I'll read an article in the Washington Post, for example, and they are a very liberal paper. And there's others that are more conservative or right-leaning. But that was Washington Post was one I was reading the other day, and some of these articles can be very polemical, very opinionated, and so watch for that. And look at advertising, and you'll find then 14 is a very interesting chapter. And then in 15, you get into science versus pseudoscience. I really think you guys are going to enjoy these chapters, and it will really frame our discussion well. I think we'll really have some good discussions. So I'm going to wrap up with just a quick synopsis. You'll read chapters 13 and 15, and make sure you do that critically. Skim, read for content, then read critically. Then you're going to look at Introduction to Argumentative Essay, Type 1, that's a video. You have how to write an introduction to an argumentative essay, also a video. And then how to write a good argumentative essay, a logical structure video. And then analyzing the conclusion of a sample, an argumentative essay video. You also have your unit 6.1 and 6.2 discussion, and those prompts are in the same place that you're familiar with. You'll have a argument mapping project and your final exam. So lots to do over the course of the week. So, but a lot of good stuff coming out the other side. Hey, I look forward to the week of learning ahead. I hope you find these little videos helpful. And I look forward to our learning together. As always, you know how to reach me, samuel.o'donnell@sccans.edu, or my cell phone number is both in your syllabus and in the faculty information section of our Blackboard shell. So that is it for now. I will sign off and I will talk with you later. So long for now.